Welcome back to my car shop. Today we are back on Stitches, our 1970 Dodge Challenger fabrication project. We have a little bit of work to do to finish up this right rear frame rail on Stitches and get it ready for final installation. So let's just not talk. Let's just watch the show intro so you get an idea what this channel is about, and I will meet you in 30 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is Mike R's shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
Seems like for the last month, life has just been full throttle, and it's been hard to keep up. I was fortunate enough to be able to get a whole bunch of episodes done before I was out of town so that I had content to give you while I was gone. Unfortunately, I'm pretty much out of those episodes now, and it's time to get back to work in here and get stuff done. I think we've had some interesting episodes where we talked about calculating carburetor size, etc., but it's time to get back and get down and get dirty. So, quite frankly, as I said, I'm pretty tired. I just came back from my house in northern Michigan where we put the front deck on and did a myriad number of other exhausting projects for a week, but I'm home and ready to dig back into this and get after it. So what we need to do is do some dimensions, determine where we are going to put the suspension stop. I've made the executive decision that I am not going to put the two nuts in the frame for the factory tie downs. I'm not going to use those anyway, and I feel like that's just a little bit of time I can save. I'm not trying to make this thing OE correct. Couldn't care less about that. That would be kind of counterproductive to Stitches. But I did want to point out, if you watch the beginning of the show where I was doing the filming, to get the episode started, I filmed the right rear frame rail, which has not been ground down and finished, and I wanted to contrast that with the left rear frame rail, which is also fabricated for the most part, and that is all ground down and finished, and that's where we're heading. So let's get the suspension stop in, and we need to get a couple of those frame anti-crush, if you will, pieces put in, and let's see where it goes from there. I think we are this close to being able to finish grind and paint this frame rail from front to back and get it installed in the car. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting pretty tired of working on frames, and I want to do some other sheet metal work. So let's just suck it up, Buttercup. Let's just do this. We can do this. Matter of fact, we probably could do it faster if I would just shut up and do it. So we know that the center line, or the center hole for the suspension stop is right in here, about 32 3/8 inches up. So we need to put the weld nuts inside the frame for that. So 32 3/8. So we will lay that out. And I've got a simple little trick here to show you on how, in situations like this, I like to just lay out the bolt pattern so I know I get the holes in the right spot. Those of you who've been around the channel for a while know I'm very lazy, and there's a number of ways I could do this, but sometimes I just like to, I got my cross mark where this goes. Sometimes I just like to take a little spray paint. That didn't work so well. Did on this one, not that one, but I've got my X there. So anyway, this paint is really runny. I should have used something different. But just spray a little paint over it. It puts a dot on the frame or on the piece that you're going to bolt on, and you can center punch it and then drill your holes. So I know where this one is, like I said. That one I can tell where it is, so good enough. And white paint would have been better, but this worked. And something not as runny. Maybe this thing needs some kaolin. Maybe that's the issue. I always like to drill a pilot hole when I'm drilling holes because it just keeps things more on target and true. Simple thing, takes a little extra time, but well worth it. Okay, we're drilling through weld there, so that's going to be a bit. Did we break the bit? Nope, but we tried hard. Okay, faster's better when it comes to drilling and stuff like this. Slow drilling is good for drill presses where you've got good force and control, but in most situations you want to spin it faster. I should have used a little lubidauber on there, but I didn't. So the factory was just self-threaders, but I think I'm going to use 1/4 inch and weld nuts inside. I think that's going to be a better way to go. So it's different than the other side, which is going to be the self-tappers, because that little piece of frame this big we reused from the factory, but this is all new here. Hopefully that's the right size. I'm going to wop this up just a little bit. Clean it up. Give me a little extra breathing space. Let's make sure it lines up. Oh my goodness, it looks like we knew what we were doing. So thank you to Duddy for all of the lessons and how to drill holes. I appreciate it. Made this job much easier. For those of you who may be new to the channel, Duddy is a friend from the channel Duddy's Adventures. Be sure to check that out. He's got some really cool stuff going on with Dodge trucks over there. And he he's doing a lot of work on a Dodge Explorer. That's another inside joke. And doing a lot of frame rail work and drilling stuff out and brackets. And just, he's got stuff. Lots of stuff going on over there. And he was drilling a whole bunch of holes to put new frame mounts and brackets and axle mounts, and he just got stuff. And so he was drilling about 16 million holes. And so there's a lot of joke and inside stuff regarding that. Now this is going to fit nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down 100%. So that it's there, and then I will tack weld it in position. Now there's one little glitch here that I'll show you for full disclosure. I didn't allow for the space. There's a little bit of a spacer in there. I may just go ahead and weld a couple of washers in there to space that up rather than bending that down. I think that would be smarter. So let me go over there to my bolt bin, which has no bolts in it. They're all in bags in the bin. So it's going to take me a minute to find a couple of washers for this. And we'll tack weld those on here as well, so that this whole thing is a finished unit. And yeah. So it'll be there. It will. In fabricating, this is why we test fit things, so that we can see what little glitches we have made and come up with a solution to correct the glitch. So a couple of washers is going to be more than adequate here for this, I'm sure. It works good on the front. I think it's going to work good on the back. Okay, yep, looks good. We will tighten that down now and do the doobie-dauber and the whatchamacallit, and then we'll have the thingamajig all tightened up to the bibbidi-bobber. That's what I figured was going to happen. I'll take you in here and show you. So this nut is a little bit cattywampus, and that washer's cattywampus. So I didn't tighten it down terribly. In fact, I'm going to loosen it just a little bit more because I want to make sure it's straight. This one up here is nice and straight. Here. This one's just a bit cattywampus, so I want to make sure that I tack that in place and then weld it solid so that it's not going to twist on the and cause the threads to cross and so forth. So that's why we test fit. And you can see that the washer is actually what's causing the issue, so I am going to grind part of that washer down so it fits past that weld, and then we'll fit it in there better. And you can see now how much better that fits in there. So now we can go ahead and weld it. Sorry, it's hard to focus down in there. There we go. So just giving it a little bit of clearance on that weld made all the difference in the world. So we will weld the nut and the washer together, leaving the bolt in place, and then remove the bolt. And we will have our pocket nut, so to speak, in position for attaching the suspension stop on the Stitch's 1970 Dodge Challenger project. This is really hot in here, and I've got a lot of weld and stuff, so I'm just going to add a little bit of oil onto the threads just to kind of help lubricate things when they come back apart. I found in the past that threads have a tendency to bind a little bit, especially when they're that hot. So I want to make sure those threads are nice and clean, and a little bit of lubricant on them is going to go a long ways in helping those hot bolts come out of those hot nuts. A little tight, but coming out nicely, and the oil just made the difference. Big difference. This one's even better. I knew I was a little bit close to the threads on that one, so I'm really glad that I took the time to put that lubricant on there, because it was tight, and then I could feel the oil penetrate those threads, and it came out beautifully. So the next step now, flip this over, take this off, put the bolts back in, and we will weld those washers on this side as spacers. We're going to weld those solid around once they're tacked. And what am I telling you for? Just watch. So let me make this abundantly clear that I'm still practicing with TIG. I could have done that in about 30 seconds with the MIG, but I'm forcing myself in non-critical situations to practice. So I started out with my small, I can't remember how many thousandths this is, which is I normally use for sheet metal, but I realized I'm welding against metal here that is over 1/8 of an inch thick between the inner and the outer, plus there's weld. So I stepped it up to my 1/8 inch rod. Was a little overkill. I needed something between, but this one wasn't quite enough. And, excuse me. So I got to grind a little bit here. It's crappy looking, I know that. I got a decent little weld on the side here. But again, I'm practicing with this thing. I'm using it in non-critical situations. 25 years of not TIG welding. I've got a long ways to go to get back up to speed. I'm remembering things, but again, just sharing with you where I'm at in the process here. I don't know how to do everything. There's things I've done in the past that I've lost the skill because it's been so long. But the only way to do it is to do it. So again, it's not a critical situation. It's just a washer and a spacer to hold this in place. So that's was a great opportunity to just get the TIG out and practice. I actually did that yesterday. I had a little project that I did for my mother-in-law, a fan, and I practiced with the TIG a little bit yesterday too. So anywhere I've got a project that I can, that I'm not in a hurry and that I can just get it out and practice and make some goober welds and make stuff look like crap, I'm gonna do that until I get back up to speed. I was practicing every day with sheet metal with it as well, but right now I just figure it's better to practice you know, in the real world. So let's grind this down a little bit. While I'm at it, I'm probably going to go ahead and grind this down a little bit as well and get this part of the frame pretty well finished up here. Then we've got some welding to do up here and here. Also on the inside, once this is cool, I have that frame support so that if the axle hits this, it doesn't crush this frame right here. Although as thick as this is, I really don't think it's going to be a problem. Like I said, the material there is, in this area, is probably over 1/8 of an inch thick. But sharing the details, the good, the bad, the ugly, that's what my car shop is all about. So you can see now I've ground this edge down. A little bit more to do in here. Ground some of the spot welds down. Not going to make it perfect, but it's going to look really nice by the time you paint that satin black. And of course get some rust proofing on that. It's going to look real good. So I've got a lot of grinding to do. I'm probably going to get my DeWalt grinder and go through and rough this stuff down so I'm not having to spend as much time with the bigger grinder going after it. So yeah, we got a lot to do here, but it's getting there. Looking good. So it's going to turn out to be a very, very nice piece of metalwork when it's done. So we've got it all roughed in, and I'm going to probably spray this part so it doesn't rust now that I've got it all cleaned up. I haven't gone over it with the purple wheel. I'm not sure that I'm going to. It doesn't really need to be super metal finished. That would give it some nice cleanup if I did. But I think it's going to be fine just the way it is. So I'm going to hit this with a little rust conditioner. I still have to put the brace in here. I'm going to get that done. And that's going to leave everything from here forward for me to finish up. Two things that have to happen next. I need to get under the car, everywhere this is under the floor, and get that all cleaned up and rust conditioned. And I also need to... I really do. Up in here, where the frame member goes into the frame, I need to go ahead and put another brace up in here, and I'll have to have this in the car to do that. Probably put it in and out of the car a couple more times, but I want to get this thing in some paint and first of all let you see exactly what the condition is. This is fitting nicely here. Very happy about that. Yeah, it's turning out really good. So let's shoot it. Well, as you can see, it's behind me drying, and well, as far as I can go, I forgot that this last batch of satin black paint that I bought has been very slow drying for some reason. I'm not sure why. Normally it'll dry fairly quickly. I painted that windmill yesterday over there, and it took almost 24 hours for that to dry. So I've kind of put myself in a corner here, and I'm stopped and I'm stuck until the paint dries because I can't work on it anymore. So that's going to do it for this episode. I'm dog tired anyway, so this is probably a good opportunity to just call it quits. It's time for me to go make supper and get on with the evening's activities, things like that. So we'll be back on this soon. I also want to bring that 8 3/4 in the shop and get that torn apart and see what we're dealing with there. Make a selection on which of the center sections I'm going to use that I have or the one that's in it. Make a gear selection. We got to go through the math on all of that, etc., etc. Because we are not too far from being able to put the rear end back in this car at some point here to be able to move it around, and so that's cool. What's next on this? The back half, which will go pretty quick. Putting that brace in, as I mentioned, over the suspension bumper, and also then there's one up in the front where the leaf spring attaches into the frame, etc., like we did on the other side. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your awesome feedback. I appreciate the fact that you don't want me to spare any of the nitty-gritty details and get right down and dirty and show you exactly what it takes to do this. We are so close. I am guessing 2 episodes and that frame rail will be welded in the car. So next time we need to finish up the back. We've got to test fit it in the car. I want to get everything cleaned up underneath there. We'll finish weld that, grind it, paint it, put it in the car, and then the next steps will be, who knows. Thank you for being here again. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram, /mycarshop. And as always, one more thing. Rock on, guys.